You're listening to Porn Free Masculinity, where you connect to your recovery and your destiny.
Hey guys, glad to be back again with my friend Rob on the mirror. We want to look into the mirror together and get curious about some things that are going on in our lives.
All right, well, I'll get us started. So here's the question, Chris, that I've been thinking about lately. Is curiosity a recovery superpower?
Wow.
Yeah, and I could go a lot of different directions with that, but is it the most important skill? Like if you had to pick recovery superpowers, is it the most important skill a man or a woman needs in order to move down this journey of recovery?
Well, let me throw a couple other words out at you, and then we'll circle back around to curiosity, because I believe it's very important. A very close kin to curiosity is the idea of openness. So I think there's a difference between curiosity and openness. I think curiosity is more, I do agree, it is a power, it is a skill, and openness is more of a state of being, a state of mind, because when I'm curious, if I come across something that kind of rubs against my beliefs, I could just shut that down and say, no, I can't, we can't go there. I can't. I remember back in my theologically rigid days, when I would run across some theology that I really didn't like, I was not open. I was shutting that junk down quick.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
But so curiosity, openness is kind of a cousin of that, but more of a philosophy, more of a mindset than a practice, like the superpower of curiosity would be. I also think acceptance. Acceptance is a big, big superpower, because I think when I run across the things that I'm encountering in my work of being curious, and I know we'll talk more about that in a second, I can very quickly judge that and condemn that and even shame that, as we talked about last time. And so the curiosity isn't very effective if I'm just going to shut that down and say, no, that's, I can't receive that. I can't, make that happen. So the superpower of curiosity, now that you say it, yeah, I think I've got to have curiosity to be open.
Yeah.
I've got to have curiosity to practice acceptance. I've got to have curiosity to be vulnerable.
Right. Right.
What is it that I really need? So yeah, I'm liking it. I'm liking the superpower.
Yeah. I would add one more onto that, is compassion. Right. And again, I don't think you can have compassion until one shows up with curiosity. Here's why. Coming off a conversation we just had about shame and our story, faulty core beliefs, there is no way that I was going to move out of behavior management as my primary recovery vehicle until I could develop the skill to say, what else might I need to work on, right? I had to start asking myself questions if I was going to go deeper into my own journey of recovery. And curiosity was the reason I call it superpower, is because I spent 33 and a half years of my life shutting down. You already used those words, shutting down what I was feeling, ignoring what I was feeling, refusing to be curious or to understand or to name what might be happening in the moment. And because of that lack of curiosity, because I had never cultivated that skill, I chose to hit what served me well at a young age of acting out and masturbation. I chose to continually go back to that without asking the question, why? Why is that my favorite solution? I would refuse to ask that question. And so I would just keep going back to it. And for me to go deeper, I had to start asking the question, why?
Sure. So for me, the first question that really invited me into curiosity was about 11 years ago, going to a men's weekend, and you'll hear me talk about it often, a men's coaching weekend in central Mississippi. And the first question that was offered to me was, where are you? Which ironically is the first question that God offers to Adam and Eve in Genesis chapter 3. When I first hear that question, it's, well, of course, I'm in my office. That's where I am. where are you? I mean,
Yeah.
that very literal matter of fact, but that even that answer in and of itself belies where I am with curiosity. I just want an answer. Yeah, I'll give you an answer to where are you, but that question is so deep because it's not so much about a literal space, although you can start there. It's also about, okay, what's going on with you emotionally?
Mm-hmm.
What are you feeling?
Yes.
Where are you in that emotional space? Oh, what are you thinking? Where are you in this intellectual space? What's running through your head? And even where are you in your intentional space? What are you thinking about doing? What's coming down the road? And so that question, just as I began to, and I want to, just my superpower of curiosity was unlocked with this little instrument right here, with a pen. Because talking about these curious questions was difficult because I wanted to come up. I was always a smart kid, wanted to come up with the answers quickly and just move on. But the pen, when you start writing with that, for me, it just began to go on. And there was never a resolution. There was never an answer per se. It just, things began to unfold.
Yeah. Do you think the curiosity, it has risk to it? In other words, living as an addict, I wonder if my lack of curiosity also pointed to a risk that I wasn't willing to take.
Yes. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, why masturbation wasn't questioned is there was a feeling of security and safety there. This worked.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't like the way it made me feel. I didn't like the associated consequences, especially relationally and in my own belief in myself. It had a lot of negative consequences. But I knew that if I opened up the computer and I went to a site and I got sexually aroused and I masturbated to climax, that would work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that offered a sense of security for me, a sense of safety for me, and also a placebo of connection. I felt like I was being loved. Now, that sounds insane. How does porn make you feel like you're being loved? Well, you're watching the most vulnerable thing that anybody can do, be sexually intimate on a screen. And so for me, that was a very accessible, close thing to make that happen. But that risk of trying to push into what that meant for me, it required some really severe circumstances for me to be willing to ask, is this the best way and why am I looking at this?
Yeah. For me, the risk of being curious meant that I might have to change. I might have to let go of that pacifier of acting out, masturbation. Being curious was a risk for me because it might require me to let go of certitude. And certitude provides its own level of safety for me, or it did provide its own level of safety for me. Being curious brings risk because I may find out that I'm wrong, and being wrong feels like rejection for me. Because so much of my story is tied to performance, to be loved. And if I'm wrong, or if I'm not doing it right, then it's an attack on my own value and worth.
Yeah.
And so, as we kind of explore this together, I mean, these light bulbs are actually going off right now in the moment, Chris. For me, there's risk in being curious as I started my recovery journey, because I'd have to let go of so many things that have become self-protective in nature that I would ultimately have to face. So I think the other value that I determined as I entered into this idea of curiosity, started to pick it up, is that curiosity actually, brain science brings us from more of a reptilian, amygdala kind of going offline, where our stories become the power driving force of how we act and behave. And curiosity brings us back online, brings us into our prefrontal cortex, gives me the ability to reason, to think, to decide, and to stay engaged in what might be happening right in front of me. And it's really, as I learned about brain science, and of course I learned more about my story, or at least the idea that my story might have healing in it, curiosity became something that I was kind of interested in. And I wanted to learn more about it. And I might want to give it a try. And as I've been able to cultivate that, it's actually given me an expanse in my heart, not just for myself, but also for others. And I want to go back to where you started, because curiosity then becomes the birthplace of self-acceptance. It becomes the birthplace of the platform, the launching pad for self-compassion. And all the things that you described now becomes a vehicle in which the rails of curiosity can carry.
Deep, my friend, deep. And, we're kind of gazing off into the abyss of, because the beauty of curiosity is it has no bottom. There's no place to say, oh, I've arrived, I'm here.
Yeah. Right.
Is that you're kind of looking off into the mysterious part of life.
Yes.
And going, okay. And a question that I think goes along with curiosity is, what's next?
Yes.
When I embrace a curious mindset, I'm more focused on growth than I am on arrival.
Ooh, yes.
So, it's not about self-justification and making it all work. It's about, okay, there's something else out there. Because that really tracks into the Imago Dei. It tracks into this being made in God's image, the divinity of man, to say, you know what, we too can look into the stars. We can look into our hearts. We can look into our relationships. We can look into what we were made for, designed for. Another question, who are you? And what is your purpose? What are you here for? Again, more curiosity, right? Yeah. That invites me not only deeper, but also farther and higher into the experience of life.
Yes. Gosh, that's so good. And it feels like a great ending point. But a couple things that come to my mind. That's when the angel of the Lord reached out to Hagar as she was fleeing her own pain and suffering.
Yes.
And she was literally fleeing the desert with her young child. And he asked, where are you going and where are you coming from? And so even I want to just add on to that, because even our Heavenly Father is loving enough to not tell us what to do, but to invite us in with his own curiosity, with his own questions. And as I just continue to process this is an important conversation for me, even in the moment. I feel so much inside. I feel a lot of excitement. I feel a lot of compassion for myself. I feel a lot of energy around this word. Last thought for me, Chris, curiosity ultimately diffuses judgment and shame for me.
Yep.
Because if I can enter into, right, if I can enter in with a question mark, it pauses my heart and mind long enough that I don't have space to then judge myself or shame myself or shame my reaction, but it gives me space to have an open heart toward myself and others. And so I know we started with this question, is curiosity a superpower? For me, it has been so far.
I agree. And I want to continue to be more curious in myself, but I also want to be more curious with you and everybody else that we get to share this time with. Because, dude, I'm grateful that just like Hagar, I get to see you. She said, she named God. She said, the God who sees me. So I get to see you, and we get to see each other, folks. That's the beauty of this medium. If you're listening or if you're watching on YouTube, if you're on podcast, that's all right. We still see you. We just see you through a microphone. But that's what every one of us wants, is to see and to be seen.
Yes.
So let's keep checking in every week on the mirror, because we want to see you and we want to encourage you to be seen as well. So look forward to next time, Rob.
Yep. Me too, Chris. Have a great week.
Take care, everybody.
Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes. You can connect with Chris at pornfreemasculinity.com.